Hey everyone, Spot of Nerd here with a brand new episode that, quite frankly, we have a lot to talk about, and I'm going to be as brief as I possibly can, but ultimately, I think it's time we talk a little bit more about what's been going on in the television world. We also had Star Wars Celebration, wishing everybody a happy Easter holiday, and Easter is not just about bunny rabbits and chocolate, but it is about God, and it is about Jesus, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and if you celebrate, that's fantastic. If you don't, no ill will, just know that, you know what, we get a day too. So, just throwing that out there. But what I really want to hone in on, and what we'll kind of finish this episode up with, though, is a lot of discussion has been going around political ideologies, political identity politics. That's the word I'm looking for. And I wanted to give you kind of my 2 cents on that, and maybe we can open it up for a respectful, peaceful discussion, because really what it comes down to is, you know, this isn't about the wokeness or DEI or everything in between. And because I have a job and I have health insurance that I really appreciate having, I will keep my opinions to myself in the full spectrum on that. But when it comes to Hollywood, when it comes to movies, and when it comes to television, you know, I'm just one of 1,000 billion channels on YouTube and Rumble that talks about this stuff. And of course, I go against the grain because I don't choose to fall in line with everything else, what the media tells you to believe, etc., so on and so forth. It really does kind of hit home in relation to, if you think about movies now, if you think about television, you think about it today versus what it was as easy as 10, 20 years ago. There's a big difference in the political ideologies or identity politics, because whenever you hear about something new, you know, look at Star Wars Celebration. Apparently Ryan Gosling is going to star in a new Star Wars project. You know, you look at the new Fantastic Four, which we're going to get into a little bit here. You know, it's a female Silver Surfer. It's interesting when Marvel or these big studios are discussing this stuff. It used to be about the characters. It used to tell you, no pun intended, a story. It used to, no pun intended, tell you about a fictional character that was badass because of superpower A or ability B. But no, today it's all about, hey, who would they fuck? Who would they have sex with? Who would they date? Which side would they be on in terms of the political aspect? It's really sad and it's pathetic that we really are at this point when it comes to television movies, because name one franchise right now, and let's roll the intro thingamabobs, but give me one fan base, give me one genre, give me one franchise that hasn't been ruined by identity politics. Now, if you haven't already, for like the 300th time on this channel and every other channel on the planet, I would love you so much if you could go ahead, hit that subscribe button right down below. Do it right now, just so you probably, if you haven't already, you don't get mad and you don't do it later, or you unsubscribe. But I would really appreciate it if you could give me the likes, the thumbs up, and with everything that we're going to talk about today, I would love to know your thoughts. Hitting it out of the gate, let's just do a brief discussion. Star Wars Celebration. We've talked about it on this channel. We've talked about it many times. The shows, the movies, etc. Star Wars is dead. It really, really is dead. And, you know, Star Wars Celebration this year was held in Japan, which is badass. Tokyo is honestly my #1 bucket list item place to travel to. So the sad reality around it is every single time we get Star Wars Celebration, YouTube actually live streams the entire event. It's 4 days. Most of the time, so it's held every 2 years, and every time it happens, I rush to watch Star Wars Celebration. I'm excited to see what the cast are saying, what the studio heads are doing, what's coming up, and da 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 da. And this was the first time, albeit it was in a place that I honestly wanted to see more of, aka Japan. I could give two fucks about Star Wars Celebration, and from what I'm reading about it, you can go online, you can read about the headlines, you are absolutely missing nothing at all. Like, at all, people, around Star Wars, as far as what's coming, the future, the actors, the actresses, the past, the present. You are missing absolutely nothing. In 4 days, the highlight that you would get out of this 4 days, Ryan Gosling is going to star in a future project that is going to be based 5 years after The Rise of Skywalker. Now, for those that are counting, Lucasfilm, with Kathleen Kennedy at the head, has basically told us about 14 other projects that haven't seen a single storyboard. So this would make it number 15 as far as movies that have been announced. Not a single one has even been put into pre-production. You can bet that if you're a fan, odds are this movie will never see the light of day. Then there's also The Mandalorian and Grogu, which supposedly was supposed to be season 4 of The Mandalorian, but because it took the biggest dump all over its own face, obviously Star Wars Lucasfilm decided to turn it into a film to kind of wrap up that series. Supposedly there was a teaser. I've seen the teaser. Okay, it's what it is. The Mandalorian and Grogu are going inside of an AT-AT, doing whatever they're supposed to. Sigourney Weaver apparently is asking the Mandalorian and Grogu to do something, and Baby Yoda swims. It's about 1.5 minutes. Here's the best part, and you can taste the sarcasm. The movie doesn't come out until 2026. They've already filmed it. I've talked about this before in a previous episode. The movie's already done. It's been like post-production. But you're not going to see it until next year. Why? I couldn't tell you. I genuinely, hand to God, could not tell you why this film, they're going to wait over a year, plural if you think about it, because the movie's been done since 2023. 2026 is going to be the release date. First things first, everybody by now has completely forgotten about The Mandalorian / Baby Grogu, Baby Yoda, whatever the fuck you want to call that thing. And you're going to wait another year to bring it into theaters, where basically that shit's already dying as is. We've discussed this in our most recent episode around the CinemaCon, if I'm saying that shit right. Whatever Lucasfilm, Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy, whatever the hell they're smoking, they should stop ASAP, because right now, from what I'm reading, from what I'm seeing on the fan side of things, you look at the social media, you look at Reddit, you look the whole 9 yards. Broken record, I say that a lot, I know. Star Wars is just, dear God, you're not learning a damn thing. And quite frankly, it leads perfectly, beautifully into a similar situation with, of course, Marvel Studios. We actually got a real trailer. I don't know whatever you want to call it, but now the mainstream media, the social media, all the likes are calling it the Fantastic Four Her, as you can imagine, because we got our first glimpse, our first image, our first clip of the female Silver Surfer. Now, yes, let's get it out of the way. Is there a female Silver Surfer in the comic books? Yes, there is. It was a very short-lived comic series. Basically, nobody read and nobody purchased in the comic book stores, whether digitally and physical copies of. And Marvel Studios, along with Disney, decided to say, for the first time that you're going to be introduced to the Fantastic Four, albeit take away the early 2000s and the 2014 movie, this is the official Fantastic Four in the MCU. For the first time, we're going to go, metaphorically speaking, balls to the wall. We're going to make one of the most iconic characters in comic book history, whether you're DC, whether you're Marvel, whether you're any other studio head that produces and makes comics. We're going to make one of the most anticipated characters ever, like Iron Man, Captain America, blah, 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 we're gonna choose the female version of it. So many things I would love to say right here and right now, and maybe one day I'll be a little more blunt. I know I've mentioned this, and I'm gonna be, I am more transparent with the stuff that we do talk about here, and I'm not gonna shy away from it, but there are things I gotta be careful of, and this is definitely one of those things I gotta be careful of, because just to be very, very clear, I have zero negativity, ill will, whatever you want to call it, pessimism towards the fact that this is a female Silver Surfer. What the world has an issue with regarding this is a couple different things. Number one, if you watch this clip, and odds are I'll probably play it over here if I get to that point of editing, if I give two fucks about doing that, the CGI looks worse than it did in 2007. Quite frankly, if you ask me, the Fantastic Four films, the first one and then the Rise of Silver Surfer, the original back in the early 2000s, the CGI was pretty god-awful. It surpasses this, and it's in 2025. Holy shit, this looks terrible. Like, it's not even laughable. It's just sad and pathetic at this point that Marvel actually thinks this is worthy of hundreds of millions of dollars of production to give to the fans and say, I told you we can do it. Nah, this has nothing to do with that. This has everything to do with the fact exactly of what we're talking about. Identity politics. This is Disney once again. This is Marvel Studio and Kevin Feige once again giving the fans the greatest middle finger that he possibly can think of, because it's not the fact that they've already destroyed themselves after Endgame with every piece of garbage imaginable, minus Deadpool and Wolverine, which, sure, I mean, I've already given you my perspective on that film on this channel. I thought it was dog shit, but from a financial sense, yeah, it did make a lot of money. But take away that, and maybe take away No Way Home, everything else has been a complete flop. And every single flop has something in common. Gee, I wonder what that could be. It's almost as if they keep doing the same thing over and over, they wonder why they don't get a different result. It's the definition of insanity. Marvel has lost its goddamn mind. And it's just mind-blowing, the fact that it's interesting when you read these articles, because we are starting to get a little bit more details in relation to what this Fantastic Four film is going to be. And it goes all the way back to what I said in the beginning of this video. I swear to you, I'll see if I can find it. You'll have to forgive me the specific, what it was, who, like, what news agency that wrote this article. I want to say it was Variety. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know, put it in the comments. They say that this new Fantastic Four film will be for modern audiences. Now, when you hear the words modern audiences, what's the first thing that comes to your brain? Yep, I already know the answer to it. I ain't gonna say it here because, like I said, I enjoy getting a paycheck. So I'm just gonna leave it up to, hey, I could go one way or the other, or X, Y, Z. I've said this, and I'm gonna say this more times than I can think of in this specific episode. Again, I don't give a damn that they are choosing to go with a female Silver Surfer. What I am blown away in relation to the fact that they are metaphorically shooting themselves in the foot yet again, because they are simply shoving those political ideologies down your throat. And it's gonna be all about Sue Storm, the girl, the invincibility. It's gonna be all about her. And then, of course, you've got Fireboy, who basically is, if you remember in those first films back in the early 2000s, he's kind of this player, he's kind of this, look at me, I'm all about the ladies, etc., so on and so forth. And they're going to downplay him to basically be the best uncle that he can possibly be. That's how they're going to portray these characters in the new Fantastic Four. Because to the fans, fuck you. Fuck you, fans. We're going to continue to do what we want to do, because we know deep down we are destroying this legacy, and we're just going to take that poo and rub it all over your face because we can, because we own it and you can't do anything about it. So fuck you. That's gonna be your Fantastic Four, which comes out in July, I believe. And I can't wait, because as much as I did say visually it looks okay, this movie is going to bomb and gonna get destroyed in relation to just reviews, in relation to, I doubt very much it's gonna make as much as they think it is, especially now that we know with all these details that have come out. But just my last thought on the Fantastic Four, it's just a tragedy. It really, really is a tragedy, because they had such an amazing thing here, and once again, Disney and Marvel decided to basically just give you the greatest middle finger they could, because they don't give a shit about money. They're going to be bailed out. BlackRock, Vanguard, the government, whatever it is, they don't give a shit. To them, they're still getting a paycheck. Doesn't matter. To us, though, tell you what, it's just another franchise dead in the water. And that will leave us all the way into our final discussion around identity politics. Now, I think it is important to talk about, because everything that we have been talking about recently, you look at some of the stuff that's been out on TV, that's in movie theaters, blah, 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 blah. And, identity politics is basically everywhere, in every crevice, in every inch, in every spot, in every corner, whatever you want to call it. And it is really getting to a point now where you look at television and you look at movies, and this goes beyond quote unquote woke behaviors or genres or whatever. I don't know what the words to use really, but it does go down the route now of movies they just don't exist anymore, if you ask me. They really don't. Television shows, they don't really they don't matter. And I don't mean that in I'm just gonna stop watching, blah blah blah, but it really does come to that grasp that what you once loved, maybe as a kid, maybe when you were younger, television show, cartoon, movie, franchise, whatever it is, it doesn't exist anymore. Going off of the list, things I can start, just list of stuff that is basically gone or dead because of identity politics. Doctor Who, Star Wars, Marvel, what else was there? Daredevil is, well, I guess Marvel is a part of that. So yeah, speaking of which, the Daredevil Born Again is truly some of the most boring shit I've ever seen in my life. They should have never done it. They should have never ever touched it from the Netflix series, but that's for another time. It is nothing but identity politics everywhere you look in relation to media. You look at, we were talking about CinemaCon in the previous video, and you have kids nowadays at the theaters that are bringing live chickens, and they're doing this thing with the Minecraft movie where, I wonder why people aren't going to the theater anymore, because could you imagine being in the theater when this happens? There would be a level of livid I haven't experienced before in my entire life if I was in that specific theater watching that movie. Not that I ever would, God forbid I would ever do that. The idea, the identity politics come into it because your media is telling you what everything should be. Your media is basically saying you should be the influencer, you should be the content creator, and albeit you might think this is a bit hypocritical for me doing this channel, but I don't do stupid shit like that. The identity politics, I'm going to say over and over again, because look at the movies today, look at the television. It's not about the story anymore. It is about, well, who's sleeping with who and what preference do they have in relation to who they're sleeping with, and what do they look like, and what's their background, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And you might think, okay, background. No, not background as in what their story background is, but no, what is their heritage? What is their culture? Because we need to find out everything about this movie. We need to find out everything about this character, except for one thing. And that one thing is the story. That one thing is the amazingness that once was Star Wars, that once was Star Trek, that once was Optimus Prime, that once was, I don't know, Luke Skywalker, name a character, Doctor Who, everything in between. We used to care about these stories. We used to care. That's why we do these channels. We have such passion and such love for these stories and these fictional tales to escape the reality that the world is, that provides this identity politics. It just doesn't make this is a rhetorical comment. It doesn't make sense, but it makes perfect sense because, you know, if you had to put a time frame on it, I would probably say it was around 2012 when this all started to happen. Is Hollywood shifting their gears to align themselves better with audiences to hopefully get them back into theaters and hopefully get them back on track with their favorite franchises? Absolutely not. These are prime. Look at Star Wars Celebration. Look at the Fantastic Four. Look at this. Look at DC Superman that's coming out. They are not even. They just don't care. These studio heads, these producers, these writers, these big corporations, they don't care about you. They think you are nothing. They don't give two craps at all about what you think and what you believe. And the reality of it is sure, they're losing money. They're losing billions of dollars, but they're not going anywhere. They have everything to back themselves up, whether it's government, whether it's, like I said, the BlackRock, Vanguard. Look that stuff up. They're not going anywhere. Just because you don't go to a theater doesn't mean they're going to stop the message. As you've heard through other channels like Nerdrotic and Geeks and Gamers, it's like the message is the priority, because if they can get the message, if they can shift the culture, if they can shift your identity politics to their side to make you believe what they want to believe, then that's how you change the world. But, and there's a big but, I cannot lie, and we will wrap this episode up. I've said it a bazillion times, I'll say it a bazillion times more in the future. November 5th of 2024 changed it all. The shift is happening. Say what you will about him, you can hate him or love him. Ultimately, what it comes down to is there's more of us, like with viewpoints that I have, there are far more of us out there than the opposite side. And this isn't, I want to be very clear here, this isn't a left versus right. This isn't an up and a down. This isn't a black and a white. This is literally a fictional versus reality. Let me say that one more time and I'll be very clear. This is about fiction and reality. We used to be able to go pick up a comic book and we used to be able to dive into a world we've never visited before, and we would fall in love. We would fall in love with a character. We would fall in love with the atmosphere. We would fall in the location, whatever it was. We fell in love with the story. Today, we're being told things that nobody asked for. We're being told things that nobody gives a shit about. Nobody asked to learn that, Lando Calrissian is bisexual. Nobody gives a shit. We want to know more about who Lando is in terms of maybe how he got his background when he was a smuggler with Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon. That's what we want to learn more about. Where, you look at the Doctor Who, when it's, we saw a piece of paper where he was filling out some paperwork and it said, sex, unknown. I don't care. I'm not saying these issues aren't important, and those issues being, of course, the discussions around those topics. I'm not saying they're not important, but what I am saying is this is fiction. Fiction. As in, like, robots that come to life, and you have to wonder, do they get auto insurance or do they get life insurance? Because do they have a soul? I don't know. It's a trans-fucking-former. I don't care who Optimus Prime wants to date. I don't give a shit. I want to know how Megatron is going to be stopped by Optimus because he's the bad guy. That's what I want to know. I don't want to know what, if Megatron would have voted for Trump or not. I don't give a fuck about that shit. That's my whole point around all of this identity politics crap. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I mean, again, rhetorically, it makes perfect sense because we could go down many roads and many paths and many conversations around this, which we will in the future. But I'm looking at the time and going, it's probably time to wrap this episode up. But just putting that on pause just momentarily. Unless Hollywood changes, unless the culture shifts back to what it was, even so much as in the 90s. You had Captain Janeway, a female captain of a starship. You had Sigourney Weaver kicking ass with aliens. You had Sarah Connor taking on the T-1000. You had, even in the 2000 Fantastic Four films, you had an African-American blind woman fall in love with the Thing, who is a fucking rock. And you want to talk about identity politics? Are you fucking shitting me right now? Do you understand how ludicrous we are in today's world in relation to the fact that in the 90s, the top 5 hip-hop artists, Biggie, Tupac, Dre, Snoop, basketball, you had Michael Jordan as one of the probably the greatest player of all time. I don't know sports, but I know Michael Jordan. That's just how well he's known. Look at your stories. Look at your television. You had the ghosts. I've said this. Ghostbusters had a guy in a wheelchair. Everything that is discussed today that is dividing us more and more and more and more are things that we already had back in just as early as the 90s, early 2000s. But for some reason, rhetorically here, today, the media, everything in between, wants to shove that identity politics down your throat. So my final piece of discussion, conversation, advice, whatever you want to call it, is from yours truly, Spot of Nerd, is, with all of that we've spoken about, if it makes any sense and you got this far, number one, I appreciate it, and I thank you very much for getting this far, and I would love your insight, respectfully, in the comments down below. But what I'm getting at is, if we've had this all done before, and I didn't think twice about it, I could care less that the captain of a starship is female. I could give 2 fucks about it. But the reason I fell in love with Voyager was because it told the story of a crew trying to get home that were lost 70,000 light years away, which was like 70 years away. They were lost in space. I wanted to learn how they got home. I don't care who Janeway loves. Maybe the story arc, maybe she had a husband. Okay, let's dive a little bit into her background in that regard, but I don't care what her sexual preference is. I don't care. I care about her story. I care about how she's gonna battle the Borg. That's what I care about. I want to see how Sigourney Weaver is gonna kick ass. What gun she's gonna pick up to obliterate the alien species. That's what I want to learn. I want to learn about Optimus's spark. His heart and soul that keeps him alive. I don't give a fuck whether he's left or right, up or down. I don't give a shit, because he's a fucking transformer. So, I hope what I'm getting at in all of this, I promise I'll shut up. We don't need it. We did just fine in the 90s, and we are doing just fine today, rather. We have our own things, and hopefully if the studios and the whatever's out there that are making these films and these movies shift that gear, shift those culture gears, whatever you want to call it, yeah, maybe you can start gaining your fans back. You can start gaining people the trust that you once had, making these stories and allowing us to once again escape reality, because we used to be able to do it, but now the reality that we tried to escape simply is just everywhere, and it kind of pisses us off. So we'll just leave it there. I thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this made sense. If it doesn't, we'll keep going and do what we do best here at Spot of Nerd. So thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys in the next episode. Laters, y'all. Okay, super quick end credit scene here. They did actually give us another trailer for 28 years later. If you haven't seen it yet, holy shit, does this movie look fucking fantastic. 28 years later is hands down the most anticipated movie that I am looking forward to this year. I am cannot wait for that. It is also interesting, which we'll tag in a future episode. Supposedly, DC's Superman and Marvel's Fantastic Four, these are going to be the defining moments. This is going to be the topic for the next episodes, plural. Supposedly, these are the defining moments for Marvel and DC. If these movies are not successful, imagine Jurassic Park 18 or 19, whatever the fuck versions that's coming out at the same time, beats those films, it's over. The comic live action movie, it's over. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes.